So, episode 89 of Pokémon Horizons was the end of an era for this series, the end of its first major chapter, and episode 90 will be the beginning of a brand new era and a brand new chapter. Now, we knew this of course due to the most recent special preview, however, we only got a tease of what's coming, a single image that, while enough to generate quite a bit of hype and discussion, doesn't really tell us much, thus leaving us with a ton of questions. Thankfully though, we did not have to wait long to get a better look at the future of this series thanks to episode 89, which not only provided us with a preview for the upcoming Mega Voltage arc, but it also ended up setting up said new arc in some pretty surprising ways. So it turns out that Liko and friends look older in this image because they are older. There was a 1-year time skip near the end of episode 89, marking the first time there has ever been a clear time skip in this anime. So Liko and friends are a year older now, meaning that they got to do yet another thing Ash never got to do: age. I think that this is great, not only because it allows the characters to grow and mature physically as well instead of just doing so mentally or emotionally, but it also means that we can see them actually change and evolve in terms of looks. We get to see them with new, updated designs, injecting some freshness into this series, preventing it from growing stale. We are no longer stuck with characters that always look the same, save for getting an outfit change at the start of a new series, though they always kept the same style and the colors, and the times when they looked different because the art style changed, sometimes drastically. I'm looking at you, Sun and Moon series. Now, admittedly, this was never an issue for me personally, at least not a big one. Did I find it odd and questionable? Yeah. Did I imagine what it would be like if we did get a time skip? Absolutely. Was I hoping to get a time skip at some point? For sure. But I never hated or complained about, at least not in a significant capacity, the fact that we never got a time skip in previous series, and thus Ash was 10 for 26 years and well over 1,000 episodes. However, even if I wasn't necessarily opposed to the fact that Ash, nor anyone else in the previous anime for that matter, ever got to age, and to the fact that time was seemingly frozen or stuck in a loop, I again did dream of a day when these things, these unrealistic and rigid things, would become relics of the past. Well, it took a while, but we finally got here, and I couldn't be happier. Now, could this mean that we will get more time skips in the future? It's quite possible, which means we might get to see Liko and friends as teenagers, young adults, and even full adults someday. Which, yeah, is very exciting. While we don't know what exactly happened in the 1-year gap, we know for a fact that it was quite eventful for Roy, since while we knew that he would get a Shiny Lucario in this arc and the means to Mega Evolve it, I'm sure most, if not all of us, expected that he would achieve this on screen during the course of the Mega Voltage arc. However, much to my surprise, after the time skip, he just shows up with the Shiny Lucario and the Keystone and the Mega Stone for it already on hand, leaving us with the questions of how, when, where, and why. I'm honestly quite baffled by the decision to have such monumental things occur off screen. Not only are they so significant that they should be shown in full detail, but also, and perhaps more importantly, they are the kind of events we want and need to see. I'm honestly torn. On the one hand, it's certainly shocking in a good way, epic and exciting to see a character show up post-time skip with some sort of insane glow-up or power-up, even if we don't know the how, when, where, and why. On the other hand though, it's a lot more difficult to accept such crazy leaps if we don't get to see them unfold. It feels like they cannot figure out a way to have them happen in an organic and convincing way, so they just have it happen off screen after a time skip, hoping that we will just accept it and roll with it, assuming that a lot, enough, must have happened in the time we didn't see to get to this point. But I'm not fully on board with this yet. Like I said 3 videos ago, it's difficult to swallow that Roy gets to accomplish in 89 episodes something that took Ash over 1,000 episodes to do, aka get a Mega Lucario. Worse yet, Roy's is shiny, making it even crazier and more special. I seriously hope we get several flashbacks that thoroughly and clearly explore and explain how, when, where, and why Roy got a shiny Lucario, a Keystone, and a Mega Stone for it. I don't doubt that they will give us said flashbacks. I mean, not doing so would be pretty bad. The question is if they will be able to make us feel like Roy earned and deserved to get a shiny Mega Lucario. I guess we will just have to wait and see. And yes, the preview does show Roy Mega evolving Lucario to battle a slacking. Overkill much? Especially if it's wild. So we won't have to wait long to see shiny Mega Lucario in action. Also, speaking of Ash, I know many people consider Roy to be his replacement, given that he is also a male protagonist who wears a cap and is energetic and loves Pokemon and loves battling, etc. But I never fully agreed with this assessment, since Roy is not the main protagonist like Ash was. Liko is. Moreover, while they do share some similarities, they are far from being the same character. However, seeing Roy with a Pikachu on his shoulder and a Lucario next to him makes it difficult to refute that he is the new Ash. It's impossible not to see it now. Of course though, this isn't his Pikachu, it's Cap, who Roy is looking after for some reason that is hopefully also explained, because Friede is currently, well, let's just say missing in action. I still think that he isn't gone for good, and I'm not alone in feeling this way. I'm sure finding him, or at least learning his fate, will be an integral part of this arc. I do want to point out that Cap is wearing Friede's goggles like a backpack. A nice detail. It shows that he has with him a keepsake of his partner. He's holding on to something dear to someone dear to him. I'm sure that if they do find Friede, returning the goggles to him will be significant. Cap would be giving back to Friede something that represents him, almost as if saying, welcome back. Time to go back to being who you are, to doing what you do. Now, speaking of finding Friede, we kind of know what else this arc will focus on. Episode 89 ends with Roy saying, time to find them. Who's them? Well, Liko is one of them for sure, since the preview for Mega Voltage begins with Roy finding her. The two of them will then set off together to, quote, get back the truth of the rising boat tacklers. What does this mean? Well, near the end of episode 89, we see that Spinel, who is also sporting a new look, is now the director of the Exceed company. It's unclear what happened to Cervantes. So Spinel made good on his promise to become and surpass Gibeon. Somehow, Spinel was able to convince the public that the Rising Bolt Tacklers are to blame for what happened in Laquium near the end of episode 89. He painted them as the villains, in turn painting himself and the explorers as the good guys. So this is the classic: the hero or heroes are framed by the villain or villains of some crime or evil deed, thus forcing a switch of roles. The villains become the heroes and the heroes become the villains, setting the heroes on a path to prove their innocence so that they can clear their names, allowing them to go back to being recognized as the good guys. But this quest ends up being fraught with dangers and peril, since almost everyone believes that the heroes are indeed now villains, and thus they treat them as such. This is likely what Get Back the Truth of the Rising Bolt Tacklers means. The truth is that they are not the bad guys, the explorers are. Now, I'm honestly surprised because I figured that we would be done with the explorers following the end of the previous saga, given that harvesting the Laquium was their master plan, their reason to exist. With that gone, I assumed they would be left with no purpose and thus no need to continue being the bad guys. But no, they will clearly remain the villains, which is perfectly fine, since not only do I think they are great for said role, but also it didn't really feel like their failure at Laquium was sufficient enough to consider them good and done for. Yeah, they lost their leader and several key members, but they still had enough evil and ambition left to fuel them to remain the bad guys. Plus, we were stuck with Team Rocket for the entirety of the previous anime, so it wouldn't be unusual if we are stuck with the explorers for the entirety of Horizons. Now, speaking of lost members, I'm sure Amegio and company will continue to oppose Spinel and company, meaning that they will remain allies of Liko and company. It's worth mentioning too that the preview shows that Spinel was able to capture the heroes following the fall of Laquium caused by them rampaging due to Laquium. So even the heroes will remain a part of the story going forward, and I'm sure that rescuing them is yet another objective Liko and company will have. Now, the reason why Spinel chose to capture them is not clear. It could be that he simply doesn't want them to get in his way again, but maybe there is something he aims to get from them or use them for. It's worth pointing out though that Rayquaza is not seen here. There is one containment cell that seems to be empty, the one on the far right next to Arboliva. Rayquaza could be in it. It's just far enough inside that we cannot see it from this angle. But it could also be that it was not captured, which is plausible since it was the only one that was not affected by Laquium, hence the only one that did not go on a rampage. Meaning it certainly had enough sense to escape after dealing with its peers. This of course means that Rayquaza might be able to help Liko and company. Also, Spinel says during an interview he has near the end of episode 89 that he and the explorers are working to restore Laquium, meaning that Friede was onto something when he wondered, as they made their escape from Laquium, what's the point of holding on to this place if the Laquium is gone? So clearly Laquium still has something to offer that is of value to the explorers. Judging by the title of episode 92, this something might just be Laquium or something related to it. So I guess Mega Voltage isn't really a new chapter like I expected. The explorers, Laquium, and the heroes will still be integral to the story. There's just no more Lucius and Gibeon. Their side of the story ended. It's up to the new generation now to blaze the path forward as they see fit. However, while almost everything from the previous saga will remain at the forefront, one key element, or rather character, is noticeably absent: Terapagos. We know it stayed with Liko following the fall of Laquium. However, we don't see it after the time skip when Liko, who returned to Indigo Academy, is in her room. We see Meowscarada and Hatrim, but no Terapagos. Though we do see a Pokeball on Liko's desk that might just be Terapagos' Pokeball. Which goes back to the poster for this arc and how I noted that Terapagos is seen in its Pokeball sleeping, which I took as a sign that maybe it will be left behind, at least in terms of relevance and importance to the story. There's even a fade to white after they zoom in on the Pokeball on Liko's desk, which feels like closing the book on a chapter. They could totally have cut to credits here and it wouldn't feel out of place. Now, could it just be extremely exhausted following the purification of Laquium to the point that it is now dormant like when it was a pendant? Perhaps, especially since the last we saw of it was it being withdrawn into its Pokeball. We will just have to wait and see. But hey, at least it got to stay with Liko, right? Though, like I've said many times before, there's always a catch when a main character gets to keep a legendary Pokemon. It seems Liko won't have ready access to Pagogo going forward, at least for a while. Perhaps finding a way to reawaken Pagogo will be yet another objective in this arc. While we seemingly lost one character, well, two if we count Friede, so a Pokemon and a human, we will be getting two new ones. Also a Pokemon and a human who we already knew about from the poster for this arc. This boy, whose name is revealed to be Uruto, and his Sableye, which can and will Mega Evolve. Uruto is supposedly Roy's rival, which makes him the first official rival in this series, right? Because while Nemona and Anne kind of fit the mold, they were never referred to as such by anyone. At least I'm pretty sure they were never called rivals, not even by Liko and Roy. It's unclear what kind of rivals Roy and Uruto will be. Like, will they be true rivals like say Ash and Paul, meaning they will battle multiple times seriously, always with the intent to definitively prove who's better? Or will they be more like Ash and Barry, friendly rivals that occasionally compete, usually with low stakes? The other questions I have about him are, will he be a main character, meaning he will be like Liko and friends, so he will join them as a traveling companion, or will he be a supporting character like Friede and the other members of the Rising Bull Tacklers? Will he join the Rising Bull Tacklers? Will he appear frequently or will he only appear occasionally? How crucial will he be to the story? All these questions will surely be answered in due time. From what we've seen so far, Roy showed up at the end of episode 89 without Uruto, yet he appears in the preview, so I guess they will meet in episode 90 and their rivalry will begin then, likely born from the fact that they both have Pokemon that can Mega Evolve. Though there seems to be an air of familiarity between them in said preview, suggesting that they already know each other, meaning they likely met in the 1-year gap and they will run into each other in episode 90, presumably coincidentally. They can't be traveling together, right? Since again, Uruto did not appear at the end of episode 89. As always, we will just have to wait and see. But yeah, that's about everything I have for you regarding what we now know for a fact about the future of Pokémon Horizons thanks to episode 89. Suffice to say, I'm very much looking forward to Mega Voltage. It's shaping up to be quite the exciting arc. It definitely has the potential to be absolutely amazing, which is why I cannot wait for it to begin with episode 90 on April 11. I will of course review each and every episode of this arc, as well as cover any previews for it as well, so make sure you stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, feel free to click the links on screen. And if you'd like to support the channel and help me keep making content like this, you can find ways to do so in the description below. Your support truly means the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.